Yesterday we talked about how you can use context clues not only to figure out what words mean, but also to figure out what phrases mean. Many of these phrases are what we call idioms, and we're going to take a look at a few of those today. One of them is, "It's raining cats and dogs." That doesn't literally mean that cats and dogs are falling out of the sky from rain clouds as the picture shows. It just means that it's raining really, really hard. You've probably heard this one used before. Another idiom is, "I have butterflies in my stomach." That doesn't really mean that you swallowed a bunch of butterflies and they're flying around in your stomach. It means that your stomach is having a weird feeling, or your stomach is feeling a little uneasy. And this happens sometimes when we're feeling nervous. So "I have butterflies in my stomach" means I'm feeling nervous. "All eyes on me." I know you've heard this one before. All eyes on me doesn't mean, please walk up to me and place your eye on me. What is the teacher really trying to say when she says all eyes on me? I want you to find someone in your house to explain this idiom to. Pause the video while you're doing that. All eyes on me means that the teacher wants your eyes pointed at her, not literally on her, but just make sure you're paying attention. Here's another one, "Hold your horses." Doesn't mean go find some horses and pick them up and hold on to those horses, right? If someone said, "Hold your horses, I'll be done in a minute," what might they be really trying to tell you to do? Pause the video and think about it, and when you're ready to share, press play. Hold your horses means to hold on for a minute, or just wait for a moment. Waiting is when we're patient, so it could also mean to please be patient. Here's another one, "Don't cry over spilled milk." Someone might say this if you got mud on your shoes and you got really upset about it. They'd say, "Don't worry about the mud on your shoes. Don't cry over spilled milk." You didn't really spill any milk. Milk had nothing to do with it. You stepped in mud. Why would they be telling you not to cry over spilled milk because you got mud on your shoes? The important part to focus on here is that they're telling you not to cry, which means they're kind of trying to tell you don't get too upset about something that you can't change. Once you step in mud, it's already on your shoes. You can't change that until you get home and you're able to clean them. So let's not get too upset about it. Another one is, "I was on the fence about what to eat." That doesn't mean you climbed up a fence and sat up at the top and tried to figure out what it was that you wanted to eat. If you're on the fence about a decision, what does that probably mean? You're trying to make a decision, but you're on the fence a little bit. It usually means that you're having a hard time making that decision. You can't figure out which way to go. You're undecided. I'm going to read through this passage, and I want you to follow along with me. If you hear anything that sounds like it might be figurative language, something that sounds a little out of place, exaggerated, or maybe even a little silly, I want you to take note of that, just like I'm going to do. And when we're done reading the passage, we'll go back and underline those phrases of figurative language. This passage is called "My Aunt's House." It's our annual trip to Pennsylvania to see our distant family. With the holidays coming up, this is the only week that our entire family can get together. We are packed like sardines into my aunt's house. I can't believe she can fit this many of us in her house. Although it is loud and crazy during this week, it is always great to see my family. As soon as I saw my aunt, her smile lit up the room like sunshine. It was so great to see her. We were the first people to arrive, so we got to set down our luggage that weighed a ton. The next family to arrive was my uncle's family with his 2 twin boys. My cousins, who are younger than me, they are growing like weeds. The last time I saw them, they only came up to my ankle. Then 4 more families piled into my aunt's house. Aunt Sandy was cooking a huge dinner, so while everyone was arriving, the kitchen was busy. I watched as my aunt worked in the kitchen that felt like 1,000 degrees. She was working as busy as a bee, basting the turkey, whipping the potatoes, stirring the vegetables, and baking the biscuits. Her hard work does not go unnoticed, and our entire family raved about her food for the rest of the day. I heard a bunch of things in there that sounded like they were really exaggerating, or they sounded a little silly. Like sardines into my aunt's house. Sardines are a type of fish. We definitely didn't turn into fish when we walked into my aunt's house. The next sentence says, I can't believe she fit this many of us in her house. So it sounds like they're pretty cramped in there. Lots of people in a small space. That's the same way that sardines are put into their case. It says her smile lit up the room like sunshine. That doesn't mean when she smiled the sun came out of her mouth. It just means that everyone noticed how bright and beautiful her smile was. They are growing like weeds. Again, it doesn't mean that their cousins are weeds in the garden. It means that they're growing. They used to come up to his ankle, it says, but now they're much taller. They're growing really, really fast. The kitchen felt like 1,000 degrees. We would not be able to survive if it was 1,000 degrees, so it definitely wasn't actually 1,000 degrees. But I think what the author's trying to say here is that it's really, really hot. And then the last sentence says for the rest of the day. That doesn't mean that literally the only thing that the family ever said the whole rest of the day was how good it was. It just means that they talked about it a lot through the day. Let's try this one. I want you to pause it after I'm finished reading the passage and ask yourself, how many phrases of figurative language did I hear? A day at the park. Today was the day that Jeff and Gina had been waiting for. They were heading to the amusement park that had roller coasters, water slides, and fun games. Gina was excited for the day to come, but when she woke up and looked out her window, all she saw was rain. Oh my goodness, she thought to herself, it's raining cats and dogs. After about 2 hours of rain, Gina and Jeff got in their mom's car and headed to the amusement park. As they entered the park, they immediately argued about where to go first. They settled on the whirling, twisting roller coaster that Jeff wanted to ride. Gina wanted to play some arcade games first, but she agreed to go to Jeff's roller coaster. They waited in line for what felt like an entire year, but finally made it to the front. It was their turn to whip through the turns and speed down the hills. Gina had to admit it was pretty fun, but her hair was like a bird's nest when she got off the roller coaster. Finally, it was Gina's turn to pick. She immediately led them to the whack-a-mole game, which involved Gina and Jeff hitting toys that popped up out of a machine. Gina was great at whacking the speedy moles, but Jeff kept missing them by a mile. Gina just laughed and collected all the points for herself. Then they headed to the basketball shot game. Gina had waited her entire life to play this game, and she was so excited she felt like she was going to have a heart attack. Although the day started out rainy, it turned out to be a blast. Go ahead and pause the video until you can find all of the figurative language in this passage. There are several places in this passage that have figurative language. One place is when she says, it's raining cats and dogs. We talked about this one before. It just means that it's raining really hard. Felt like an entire year. They didn't stay in that line for an entire year. They just stayed in that line for a long time. Her hair was like a bird's nest. Okay, that doesn't mean it turned into a bird's nest. It just means that her hair was kind of messy. It says that Jeff missed them by a mile. A mile is a really long way. Certainly didn't miss them by that far, but I think what she's saying is that he missed them by a great deal. And then it says that Gina waited her entire life. Again, I highly doubt that since she was a tiny baby that she was thinking about playing this basketball shot game. But she probably did feel like she waited a really long time. All right, here's the last one. Go ahead and pause the video until you can find all of the figurative language. Let's go ahead and take a look at all the figurative language. Did you find all of these? Do you know what it means? I hope you took the time to use your context clues to figure out what these words mean too.